Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Cantor. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Great to have you back for another Shabbat service. And each Shabbat, we think about how we're actually coming together as a community at the end of a long week. And no matter what the trials of this past week have been, even if it's broken our hearts or shattered our souls, on Shabbat, we come together with our loved ones, with our friends, with our community to repair that soul. And we ask God to do the same in this beautiful opening melody of Yedid Nefesh.
Yedid Nefesh. We receive Kabbalat Shabbat. Kabbalah means to receive. We receive Shabbat. And as Rabbi Klein said, wherever we were this week, now we can receive the light, the rest, in this beautiful melody of Lecha Dodi. We sing together. Here we go. Lecha Dodi. Likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat. There we go. Nekavila, Lecha Dodi. Likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat. Nekavila, Shamor veZachor bedibur echad. Ishmianu El HaMiuchad Adonai Echad Ushmo Echad L'Shem Tiferet V'Litilal Chadodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekavla Chadodi Likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat, Nekavila. Likrat Shabbat, Lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor haberacha, Merosh mikedem nesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila Lecha Dodi Likrat kala Pnei Shabbat Nekavila Lecha Dodi Likrat kala Pnei Shabbat Nekavila Hit oreri, Adonai alayich nigla lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekavila lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekavila. We rise. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha u'v'tzala toch emunei am segula boi chala boi chala לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לך דודי לך דודי Lecha dodi. You may be seated. And my friends, as we get ready to light our Shabbat candles, my dear friend and our fellow congregant, Alan Pressman, told me about this amazing thing happening tonight. So right after services, if you can go light the night, this walk in honor to bring light to the darkness of cancer for leukemia and lymphoma research, of course, very dear to my heart and my family. So this is happening right here at this address. If you can, go walk in honor of all those you love who have been touched by cancer. And also we light our Shabbat candles this evening. So whether you walk and pray with your feet or light with your hands, please join me wherever you are in lighting your Shabbat candles as we'll go to the bracha and we will bring in the light of the night and the light of Shabbat to all of our hearts and all of our souls as we sing the bracha together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. And I can hear you saying, Amen. And friends, now we prepare for our Ma'ariv service with the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba Be'amad yivrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon Uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael B'gala Uv'izman kariv V'yimaru Amen. Now I'll hear you. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam olam me'amaya yitbarach v'ishtabach v'itbar v'troma v'naseh v'itadar v'itale v'talal shemei gurusha brichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'ama ve'imeru Amen. Please rise. Ya la la ya 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 la 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 ya ya la 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 ya la 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 Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed Le'olam va'ed Yalalai 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 Yalla lie lie lie, yalla lie lie. You may be seated. Mavir yom umevi laila umavdil ben yom uvin laila Adonai tzvaot shembo el chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Haravim. Our bracha for creation.
Amen. I want to note that it's very apparent to me as new to Columbus that the season is changing. It was very chilly today, but the change is welcome. It reminds us to stay in the moment. I'm also reminded of what is kind of a second no, but we also I think in the midst of all this change are reminded of what is constant. And in this prayer of Ahavat Olam, we recognize Nehege Yomam V'Laila, that will rejoice in Torah day and night. Doesn't matter if the night comes early or later. It's a constant for us. And in this season, we're renewing the reading of the Torah. Now we've already kickstarted. We're in Genesis right now. And I just delight in coming back to the oldest of stories that root us in our tradition. And I appreciate them for the words of this blessing, Ki hem chayinu ve'orech yamenu, for they are our life and the length of our days. And that by being inspired from these lessons of Torah, we can actually see our lives revitalized and lengthened and renewed. So King Moses will lead us in the Chatimah, this blessing.
Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu v'hem negei yomam v'layla ve'ahavatecha tasir mimenu leolamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Together. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed Ve'avta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet. Oh, you're on mute, Reb. There you are.
Thank you. Oh, it's so difficult to read when you have a Zoom screen covering up, but I think I remember this one.
Do you want me to lead it? If
Yeah,
you
would you
can,
read
can
the
you see the
beginning?
words?
Thank you.
Standing on the parted shores of history, let's read together. We still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together, and singing together. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, norati lo tosef eleh. ונאמר, כי פתה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גל Israel. And as I teach all of our students at Sunday school that we get to see in person, so amazing. I teach the most important bracha, the most important blessing is the word of shalom, which of course we know as hello and goodbye, but of peace. And hashkivenu, the settling, right? The Shekhinah is the dwelling place of God, settling with peace. We can't control the world around us, but if we go deep within, we can find that shalom within the Shekhinah, the dwelling place that gives us comfort and gives us our center. So we sing together the beautiful Hashkivenu prayer. Find your center, find your shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom v'hamidenu shomereinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom v'hamidenu shomereinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom v'hamidenu shomereinu lechayim. And once we find ourselves within our community as we sing together Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושרו בני ישראל את השבת. We have come to what's called ha-tefillah. Tefillah is prayer, but why is this ha-tefillah, the prayer? Because We've warmed up to God. We've come together as a community. And now, as we rise together, still as a community, we say these 7 brachot, these 7 blessings, and then find that Shekhinah again and find that connection to your own prayer. They say at the end of the Amidah, it's the obligatory prayers, but it's not complete unless you add your own prayer. So we rise together and say these 3 brachot out loud as a community. And then once again, we go within and we'll have moments for traditional prayer or silent contemplation. Include your own prayer, and please feel free to be seated once you have concluded. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotinu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל, אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יעלוך הסלע, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue silently. You may be seated.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Of all the stories in the Hebrew Bible, why has the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, a story of near child sacrifice, become so prominent. The story falls in this week's Parasha Vayera, and yet it is selected for perhaps the most important reading of the year on Rosh Hashanah during the high holidays, when more Jews attend synagogue than any other time of the year. Many of us, I imagine, listen to this Torah reading, depicting God's instruction to Abraham to take Isaac to sacrifice, and imagine Isaac as our own child. And we ask ourselves, would I obey? Would I do that? And then think, are you kidding me? Absolutely not. What message then can everyone, every commentator, every rabbi, every Jew in the pews get from this parasha? I believe that message is exactly that we, the Jewish people, unequivocally are done sacrificing our children. We're done. We take the rejection of child sacrifice perhaps for granted in this day and age. For Jewish Americans, I think that when we hear child sacrifice, we imagine some bizarre ritual 1,000 years ago on top of some Mayan pyramid in Mexico. And we forget that in the ancient Near East, child sacrifice was widely practiced as well. It's hard to imagine, but adjacent to the holiest city of Jerusalem is the valley of Gehenna, or the valley of hell, where child sacrifice was practiced. I know it sounds strangely like Gehenna, the suburb of Columbus, but that city's name is actually derived from an indigenous American word for three creeks joining into one, and is the former name of Big Walnut Creek. Now in Gehenna, child sacrifice was practiced to appease the Canaanite god Molech. In the second book of Kings, we read of how the Moabite king Mesha, in the course of war against Israel, sacrificed his eldest son to the god Chemosh. But Jewish tradition intended to change the discourse. We said to the world, we're done with sacrificing our children. Their lives and their success are our priority. Our God in the Torah unequivocally rejects child sacrifice as one of the worst of evils. Leviticus Holy Code gives a dire warning against such practice. It commands that anyone who commits child sacrifice to the god Molech, or anyone who shuts their eyes on the sidelines to the practice of child sacrifice, that such individuals are to be charged with a capital crime, for they have desecrated God's house and God's holy name. Deuteronomy reminds us that God detests the burnt offering of sons and daughters to the gods. The binding of Isaac reminds us how dangerous it can be to regress back to those primitive ancient ways, to leave our children on the sacrificial altar. Throughout Jewish history, generations have let themselves become caught up in the issues of their own lives and forget to seek justice for the generation that will succeed them. Contained in the Hebrew Bible are stories of select Jewish judges and kings who, against God's will, literally sacrificed their own children for military victory. Jeremiah speaks of a regress into this practice in the very same valley of Gehenna next to Jerusalem. God cries out, "There they burn their sons and daughters in fire, which I never commanded, which never came to my mind." Have we, too, regressed? Are we so distracted that we overlook the danger which faces our children, so focused on other issues that we forget to seek and achieve justice with the next generation and instead leave them on the sacrificial altar. While these events have not necessarily made front page headlines or news of late, school shootings continue to be an ongoing phenomena of our times. Just this month, 4 were injured in a high school shooting in Texas. Less than a month ago, a 17-year-old died in a shooting outside of a high school in my hometown, Champaign, Illinois. Here in Columbus, a 16-year-old died in a shooting downtown this past May. A 15-year-old boy was hospitalized after he was shot outside of an elementary school here in Columbus this past August, while others were just playing with a handgun. If there was ever a time to turn inward for reflection, it is now. Have we placed our children on the altar to be sacrificed for our other concerns? When we head to the polls this year, will we and the politicians that we vote for take a stand for the next generation? I call to mind one of the most famous quotes of Israeli history attributed to the former Prime Minister Golda Meir in the early years of the newborn state of Israel. Peace will come when our enemies will love their children more than they hate us. We can correctly blame continued existence and proliferation of gun violence in and outside of American schools on the partisan divide that exists in this country. Cooperation across political divisions is in a dismal state. And other issues, be it taxes or Israel or healthcare, immigration, draw our attention away from one startling fact. In 2019, before the pandemic, our new normal was defined by the average of 1 school shooting a week. Are we so focused on the issues of our generation that we forget the generation to come? Can we not even protect our children in school in this first world country? While we look to the future for a path forward, let's also look to the past at the model of Abraham, our father. The Hebrew word for father, Av, is embedded in Abraham's name, Avraham, so that he will instruct his children and his household after him to go in the way of God, meaning that Abraham was chosen to be a role model of fatherhood. And a model father cannot sacrifice his child. One could easily believe Abraham entered into that story of the Akedah in a murderous mindset of religious extremism. If God tells me to sacrifice my son, then I will. But that was not the case. For Abraham had received a great series of blessings from God, the promise of children. 4 times in Genesis, God spoke about this to Abraham. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted. Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. 4 promises: a great nation, as many as the dust of the earth, as the stars of the sky, not one nation, but many nations. Abraham heard these promises, and he had faith in them. It says Abram believed the eternal. In this day and age, when society constantly questions what religion can offer a broken world, let us recall the 4,000-year-old Jewish call to justice that Abraham modeled to the world. Let us cry out that we, the Jewish people, are done sacrificing our children. We live by the words of Lador Vador, from generation to generation. We choose life so that our children may live, that they may be as numerous as the dust of the earth, as the stars of the sky, and that they may be for a blessing. Can you hear Ratzon? May this be God's will.
Shkoach, Ken Yehi Ratzon. And as fall is coming, as spring is on the horizon somewhere, we still need hope every day. And so we take a moment to think about all those who need a refuat hanefesh, a refuat haguf, a full healing of body and soul. And this Shabbat, we pray for Lev Heschel ben Batami, Ve'eren David ben Pielea, Harav Tuvia, Levi ben Yosef Tzvia Kohen, Ubadia, Yaakov Yitzchak ben David Verav, Eliyahu ben Sarah, Harav Uvein Shlomo ben Medav and Leah, Naomi bat Miriam v'Charav, Yosef, Gitzel bat Yehuda v'Chaya, Sisachana bat Yita Rivka, Levia bat Rachel, Gavriela bat Nechemia Dvora, Yirmiyahu ben Yosef v'Rachel, Elianu Shai bet Binyamin v'Shira Leah, Sandor ben Sarah, Miriam bat Simcha v'Shifra, Sarah Masha bat Ganesha v'Mosha, Gershon ben Masha, Jerry Bain, Tammy Burke, Becky Caudill, Pat Caudill, Sonny Cox, Bree Craig. We pray for George Dickerson, Larry Footer, Karen Gillen, Warren Grove, Melissa Johnson, Ethan Kadish, Ray Carlsberger, Dama Killinger, Jerry Cruz, Marilyn Lassen, Anthony Paneth, Clark Patton, David Reynolds, Danny Rosen, David Shulman, Annette Turner, Mary Lou Wagner, and all those who you have added to the chat and in your hearts and minds. We sing Hope Renewed. With
Please join me in this prayer for our country. Our God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessings for our country, for its government, for its leaders and advisors, and for all who exercise just and rightful authority. Teach them insights of your Torah, that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony to banish hatred and bigotry and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country. May this land, under your providence, be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom and helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. And please join me in a prayer for the state of Israel. Master of compassion and forgiveness, cosmic majesty, who is peace, teach us your ways, show us the path that preserves life. Plant a steadfast reminder of our inherited mission in our hearts to be a compassionate people, descended from compassionate people. Pursuers of peace and harmony, keepers of God's way to do charity and justice, despisers of revenge and begrudging, lovers of forgiveness and pardon, the ones who unremittingly declare that humans are precious, for they were created in your image. Blessed are you, God, master of peace and reconciliation. And we sing, Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael veGoalo. Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael veGoalo. We rise for Aleinu. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated.
Our thoughts turn now to those who are no longer with us in body, but are still in our minds and our hearts, their spirits with us. Please add the names of those you are remembering to the chat as I share those in our community that we are remembering. Observing Shloshim, I know of as of Jack Goldberg, Philip Zuckman, Donald Fable, and Ray Coffey. Observing Yortzites for Alice Bain, Samuel Bottikheimer, Rose Graf Califf, William Wolf Califf, Flora Cohen, Robert Coedes, Norman Friedman, Isidore Goldberg, Harry Goldberg, Marilyn Gordon, Louis Gusky Guggenheim, Howard Half, Berta Harbour, Jack Heltzer, Jane Hooker, Susan Carol Janus, Deborah Lynn Jenkins, Herman B. Kaplan, Camille Keynes, Ephraim Kirshner, Arthur Cohn, Gladys M. Korn, Malvin Landers, Rose Eichberg Lazarus, Leon Mendel, Paul Miller, Sylvia G. Nathans, Bud Darren Orlov, Scott Baron Oster, Tilly Rosenthal, Louis Saslaw, Bertha Schechter, Alex Scheinman, Craig L. Scheinman, Lenore Schultz, Benny Skolnick, Homer Stewart, Mary Weinstein, Ricky Frankel Weiss, Rhoda Schramm Weiss, Jacob Worley. I invite you now, if you're observing Shiva, to please rise the first week of mourning. If you're observing Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, please rise now. If you're observing Shana, the first year, 11 months of mourning, please rise now. And if you're observing a Yortzeit, please rise now. These are the mourners in our community. Think of their loved ones as we say these words, Zichronam Livracha. May all their memories be for a blessing, those that I said and those that you shared in the chat. And I invite us all to please rise as one community together with them as we say these words in the Mourner's Kaddish. Together, Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach yiroteh ve'amlich malchuteh, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudusha Brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen.
Amen. So join us tomorrow for Jewish meditation. And on Sunday, Rabbi Mars continues her Musar class. We have a couple more announcements here. I believe the next one is meeting Rabbi Mars in a Starbucks if you're a teen, or maybe if you're anyone. Oh, and young adults. Only if you're a young adult. Ruth is like, not anyone, just a young. What does that mean, young adult? We won't go there. But anyway, she's going to be there from 4 to 5 on Thursdays. And then there's another program. Oh, yes, this is very important. This is really, really important. On Sunday, October 24th from 3 to 4, that's this Sunday, actually. There's going to be a program with Nationwide Children's Hospital and Jewish Columbus, a relationship between social media and the mental health of teens. And we actually have 2 Temple Israel teenagers, I think Cooper Solomon and Abby Thomas, I believe, who are presenting. So show up to this really important event to support our teens, but to support our community in this very crucial issue. And Rada is saying the Jewish Film Festival is starting November 2nd. And we have one more next Shabbat Zoom with me. And then we're going to have our in-person celebration Shabbat coming up November 5th. So I think that calls for a l'chaim. So if you have something sweet with you, please raise a glass with me for Kiddush and Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim. Everyone, kivanu varcharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. L'chaim tovim. And as I saw, there was a chapter 2 event. So make sure you get there to chapter 2. and ask Izzy. I know Izzy's here tonight for more information on that. And as well as Ruth just reminded everyone to register for our in-person Shabbat. And we have some chalot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. And we'll close with the Adon Olam, Adon Olam.